I wrote down all the questions, but I didn't write down what the subject was. What was the topic this month? Bird, what are you doing? Want to come be in my video? No, fine. Fine! I don't want you in my video anyway. So to start off this video, I'm gonna list my top five supplies. First one is Worbla. Worbla, also known as Worbla's Finest Art. Oh my god, I forgot the real name. I just call it Worbla all the time. Whatever. Worbla is a thermoplastic which you heat up either with steam in the oven or with a heat gun, and you can mold it to any shape. Worbla is great because one, it is self-adhesive. You don't need to add glue or any type of rubber cement to keep it to stick together. It is very strong, it holds shape really well, and all of your scraps you can actually reuse, you can remold them completely. While it says it is sandable, I find it very difficult to sand and get very smooth. It takes a lot of layers of primer and sanding before you can get a nice even surface. The cons are that it is more on the expensive side and it is not as easily available. For the majority of people, you have to buy it online. So the things I use Worbla for most are for mainly armor projects. I also use Worbla to cover other materials, like some of the other materials I'm going to talk in the list, like spray foam or EVA foam. I do use Worbla to typically cover those to give it a nice working surface that I can paint on and sand. Next supply is just foam. This could be craft foam, Eva foam, L200 foam, any other number of foam. The great thing about foam is that it is cheap and pretty much available anywhere, whether it be your craft store, Home Depot, Lowe's, home improvement store, you can find it. Depending on the type of foam, like L200 is really easily moldable. You can heat it up slightly with a heat gun. Don't heat it up too much. It friggin' burns and smells really toxically. But you can heat it up and you can shape it into a great variety of shapes. Same with Eva foam. Takes a little more effort because it's more dense of a foam. And craft foam, you can bend and stretch a bit to create shapes. And one of the greatest things about just using foam in general is that your surface is perfectly smooth. You can just slap a little bit of primer on it and paint that sucker and you are ready to go. Cons to just using foam would be that it is not very strong. It can easily bend, rip, or tear, especially when you're wearing it as like a full armor piece or using it to build a prop. So I mainly use foam for armor pieces, whether they be big or small, and I also use it as like a base to put Worbla over. You know what I mean? Like you make it out of foam first and put Worbla on it just to have a nice finished surface, that sort of thing. Next basic supply is cardboard. This could be any type of cardboard. This could be like poster board you buy at Michael's. This could be cardboard from a cardboard box. Cardboard is super versatile and you can get it anywhere, and it is the cheapest of all of these products. You can make armor out of it, you can make props, you can make guns and weapons, whatever you want. But I will say cardboard is more on the beginner level because it is not as versatile as Worbla or foam. You don't get as nice of an end product. The downsides to using cardboard is that it is not moldable at all. You have to always cut it and glue it and you never get like a curve, it's always a sharp angle. Another downside to cardboard is that it's generally not comfortable. Foam can be kind of squishy and better to wear, but cardboard is just scratchy and itchy. But you can still make whatever you want with it. Next on this list is Sintra board. Sintra is a thermoplastic similar to Worbla, but it's much more dense and less moldable. But a great thing about Sintra is you can buy it in different thicknesses, which helps great when making armor. And while Sintra board isn't as moldable as Worbla, it still works the same way. You can heat it up in the oven or with a heat gun and it will curve and hold a shape if you need it to. Sintra is also very strong. It's stronger than Worbla and it's stronger than foam and it holds its shape pretty much through everything. And it is a perfectly smooth surface. Like I don't even have to prime that before I paint it. The downsides to using Sintra is, as I've repeated myself, it is not as flexible as Worbla or any foam, so you can't do as much with it. It's also a little expensive depending on the thickness you get, and it's not available everywhere. I have to buy it online. And last but certainly not least in this product's list is foam or spray foam or pretty much insulation foam. This stuff is available anywhere. You can get it at Home Depot, any home improvement store. It is pretty much a spray foam that's used to insulate houses or fill in cracks. But the cool thing about it is that you can pretty much start off and just spray a random shape, like a circle or a cube-ish shape if you can get it to get a cube. But you can carve into it to whatever shape. It is still porous and you will get bubbles in it, so you have to put something over it like paper mache or Worbla, but it's a great base to start off with odd shapes. Downsides are that it's not as sturdy. Again, it is just foam, so it can break apart, and it's also pretty heavy. I usually use spray foam when I'm making accessories, props, or weapons. You saw it in a few of my tutorials like my Harley mallet, but you don't have to use it just for props or weapons. I've seen armor be made of it, like super huge pauldrons. I always want to say cauldrons, but I know that's not right. But I've seen people use spray foam to get the general shape of like a huge shoulder piece. They shave it down, sand it down, and then cover it with something else, and it's a great start. Yay! So those are my top 5 products that I use most often. And I will list links in the description below for where I personally purchase all of these products. There is broccoli stuck in my tooth, and I can feel it, and it's bugging me really bad. Next category is primers, paints, and sealants. Sealants? Sealants? So spray primer, gesso, and wood glue are my top 3 primers. Gesso is pretty cheap. You can find it in any paint or artist store. You can easily layer it up and sand it down. And it's white, so it makes everything clean and pretty. Spray primer is just like it says. It comes in a spray bottle. The only downside to spray primer is that it can get pretty expensive because it usually takes a few cans to really build it up and cover like an entire armor set. But it is really easy and quick. But it does take up space because you usually have to go outside. Lastly, there's wood glue, which is one of my favorite primers. Wood glue is super cheap, and one of the greatest things about it is that it's pretty thick, so you don't have to do as many coats when you're priming your whatever you're doing. It is also semi-flexible, not very flexible, but if you need your armor to give a little bit of flex to like get it on, wood glue will flex with it. Oh, chunk of pineapple, sour. On to paint. Now there are a million different kinds of paint that can be used a million different ways. There's a lot of paint, a lot of different painting techniques, and I can't fit it into this little video. So my go-to paint is spray paint. It's quick, it's easy, it's not that cheap, it's not that expensive, but you can still get a decent range of color, and it's so easy and quick, and you don't have any brush strokes. It's just, if I can, I opt to spray paint. And if I can't spray paint something, then I go for acrylic. Acrylic is pretty basic. You can use it on pretty much any material, and you have an infinite range of colors. Plus you can mix the colors. There's a gazillion and one colors that you can make with acrylics. And again, there are a ton of different paints out there. You can use fabric paint, you can use puffy paint for details, glass paints that will be kind of iridescent looking. So my advice is just to be really creative with paints and try out a lot of different things on different mediums. And lastly, in the sealants. These are pretty much your protective top layer to any armor, prop, or weapon that you have made. First, spray primers. You can get them in matte, semi-gloss, satin, and gloss. And you just spray it on. Again, there are no brush strokes. It's quick, it's easy, and it's done. My go-to brush on sealant is called Polycrylic. And again, you can get this in the same finishes, matte to glossy. It might be expensive. I don't remember. I don't buy it often, to be honest, and a little jug will last me a long time. But I will say that for some paints, even if I let the paint below completely dry for like a day, 24 hours, when I brush on the polycrylic, sometimes it will still smear. And I can't figure out why it does it to some paints and not others, and sometimes it's not consistent. I really don't know, but I'm forewarning you that that might happen because it actually happens 1 out of 3 times to me, which is quite often. But smear marks aside, polycrylic is pretty durable and it leaves a really nice finish. And lastly, as a sealant, I find that I actually use resin pretty often. It is thick, it is shiny, and it is really durable to cover any piece. But resin is quite expensive. It takes a long time to cure, but the final product is so pretty. Next category of tools. Now I kind of did a video on my favorite tools. It was a long time ago. It was a monthly favorites video, and I'm going to link that in the description below to give you more details about the tools I'm going to talk about, because I'm just going to briefly go over them in this video. First necessity are my tin snips, because those things cut anything, anytime, anywhere, and they don't hurt my hands. Hot glue gun. Get yourself one. Get a cordless one. Poop. I know him well enough to know when he's going to poop. Because pretty much any problem can be solved with a little hot glue. Get yourself a Dremel and a variety of accessories. Mainly the sanding tips and the cutting tips. And I also like the little cone sanding tips too. Those are pretty nice for small areas. Sandpaper. I know we all hate it. We hate doing it. But you need to do it. And if you're feeling really bala, get yourself one of those hand sanders, because those save so much time. I love my hand sander. It's worth every penny. A heat gun for heating up thermoplastics or foam or making paint dry faster. Bird, I think I just inhaled a feather. What are you doing to me? That was a baby one. Oh, that's a good boy. No, but really, if you're going to be working with any type of thermoplastic, then you need to get yourself a good heat gun. A cordless drill. You never know when you're going to need to make a hole in something, or screw something together, or take something apart. And my last two tools are a sewing machine and my serger, which is off screen, but a sewing machine and a serger. But a sewing machine is a must-have. You cannot just hand stitch everything. That takes way too much time. And a serger is a luxury. I went years without one, but honestly, it has made all the difference in the construction of my costumes. And I highly recommend getting one if you've been putting it off. Next category is all about glue, because this is easily one of the most important things when you're building your costume. So the number one glue is hot glue. You can use it for everything. You need a lot of it. Second glue I use a lot is just plain old super glue. Super glue is a tighter bond than hot glue, but I find that it sometimes doesn't work on certain materials. I mean, same with hot glue. Hot glue doesn't work on everything, but between hot glue and super glue, you can glue pretty much anything together. Next glue is wood glue. I mean, I use it mainly for a primer. I don't really use it to glue things together, but it is a glue, so it's in this category. The next glue can either be rubber cements or the 74 glue, but both of those glues are used mainly to glue foam together. And the last glue might be the most important glue, and I bet you none of you expected it to be on this list. Are you ready? Are you ready? Silicone! Yep, that stuff that you caulk your bathtubs with. Silicone is waterproof, it is flexible, it adheres to pretty much any surface whatsoever, and it's paintable. The only thing it pretty much isn't is sandable. I know you didn't expect that, did you? But silicone is like the secret savior of the glue. Mainly if you need to glue shoe covers over shoes and have them be permanent, silicone is the glue for you. It is flexible for on your feet, it is waterproof for on your feet, and it adheres to both the rubber of your shoe and to the fabric of the cloth you're covering your shoe with. Silicone! I know, I love silicone. I use it all the time. I'm so excited talking about this. Okay, next subject. Very last thing I'm going to talk briefly about is fabric and patterns. This strays a little bit from what we started with like more armor and prop making supplies, but fabric and patterns still do go into the construction of cosplay. And I got a few questions regarding them, so we're going to go over them. First off, I have 2 videos about fabric. One is how to prep to go fabric shopping, how to like pick out fabrics in your brain and kind of how to fit them to your character, and pretty much just brainstorming before you go to the store. Second video is about shopping for fabric in the store. Now you can buy fabric in a great variety of places. The most abundantly available is Joann's. Now I will tell you, I hate Joann's. They have the worst selection of fabrics for the most expensive price. And while they do have coupons, I pretty much buy only notions there. It's like zippers, thread, patterns, stuff like that with coupons. As far as fabric goes, I highly recommend just Googling in your local area and finding a local store. Odds are you're gonna have a greater selection of fabrics and pretty much find a lower price, or at least a little lower price. I bought fabric at Joann's, everyone's done it, but if you can avoid it, avoid it. You cleaning your butt? I'm trying to talk. Yeah, I'm talking at you. So, my favorite places to buy fabric are 1, Yardage Town, which you saw in my previous videos. 2 is Michael Levine's. It is up here in LA and is my new favorite place to buy fabric since I can't get down to Escondido much anymore. And lastly, of course, there is always Joann's. And now a little bit on patterns. So for the most part, yes, I do buy my patterns at Joann's whenever they have those like 99-cent pattern sales or 2.99-cent pattern sales. I buy all of them during that time and I hoard them. But if you want to make your own patterns, there are good ways to go about it. First, I highly recommend actually starting with a pre-made pattern and just altering it a bit. It kind of gets you a good start if you've never made a complete pattern from scratch before. And even if you are looking to draft a pattern completely by scratch, it's really nice to have the reference of a similar already pre-made pattern next to you just to kind of help you out. But if you do want to start drafting patterns, honestly, go for it. It makes your patterns unique, which makes your costume unique, and it just makes it fit you so much better, and I think it's fun. It might not be fun for everyone, but I think it's fun. But if you are going to start drafting your patterns, you are going to need a lot of paper, and for God's sake, do not just tape together pieces of printer paper. Oh my gosh, you cannot work with that stuff. It doesn't bend right, and no, don't do that. You're gonna dig yourself into the ground. So if you do want to start drafting patterns, I recommend butcher paper. That's what I use. You can get them in big rolls. Depending on how big, it can get kind of expensive. But if you don't want to go looking for butcher paper or you don't have access to it, a good alternative is gift wrap. It's a nice long sheet of paper and the backside is white, and sometimes the backside even has a grid laid out on it. It works beautifully to make patterns on. Give yourself a round of applause. We are finished. So there you have it. There are my tips, tricks, tools, favorite things to use, all concerning construction of costumes. All right, that's it. See you later. Peace out. Bye. That was really enthusiastic. I didn't mean to be so happy about saying goodbye. I'm just really happy that I got through this video finally. So see you next time. Bye. I'm a mermaid. It's been so long since I filmed. Can you tell? Oh my gosh, there's gonna be so much editing to do.